back to Get Your Wellies. We're going to take a tour of the garden tonight, so without any further delay, why don't you get your wellies, meet me in the garden. So guys, we're cluttered and a little messy in the garden right now, but we've had a lot of things going on, including taking a short trip, and so I have all these hoses everywhere, basically because I had to leave that on autopilot for a few days. So it is what it is, tangles of hoses notwithstanding. So let's take a look at what's going on though. I know you all kind of want to know what the garden looks like this year. So these are sweet potato vines. These were grown by my friend Val, and I had enough here, a total of 8 of them, to do 2 of these tubs. Now last year I did 2 of these tubs, and that was a fairly good amount of sweet potatoes. What it really did was make me want to do more than 2. So this year I have 4. I have some slips that are about ready to come out here, so they're going to be about a week behind these vines, but that's okay. We've still got enough time in the growing season to get sweet potatoes. So these 2 have been cleaned out. I've just got to get my tools and those parts out of there, and then we'll go ahead and put those in, and I will probably use straw for the sweet potato vines, for the mulch for those. I really like straw for them because it's nice and loose, and vines can still grow just fine, but there's not a whole lot of weeds. So I will show you when I put that in. I also really want to do a video about sweet potatoes, but that'll come at a later date. Now these flower beds, I built these this year. There's a total of 5 of these that are this size. These are 2 foot wide, 8 foot long. This one has nothing in it at all yet, but it's going to be an okra bed. So we're starting to get into this hot weather here in Arkansas, so those seeds do need to go in the ground fairly soon. So I'll be putting that together in the next few days also. Nothing going on there right now. Now these are shishito peppers. My first time to grow these, and some of you may be wondering what I'm using for mulch here. This is actually aspen shavings. It is sold commonly in the big box stores as litter for your small animals, rabbits, guinea pigs, hamsters, things like that. So you can get cedar, which is fine too, I suppose. I'm going to have to tell you that I love the way this looks. I don't really know yet if it's something that I would use every year. I'm hoping that I can say yes to that before too long, but it sort of depends what happens in the wintertime, how it breaks down, and if it works well during the hot weather. Of course, it's light, which I really like that because it doesn't absorb as much heat as a darker mulch would. But anyway, so these peppers still kind of small but doing okay. These are Trinidad Scorpion. That's a yellow one over here on the right hand side of the screen there, and this one over here is a red ghost pepper, so I just put those in together. I always give my peppers a cage, incidentally. This is, to me, they don't necessarily have to have a cage, but my peppers usually get pretty big, and I usually wish that I had attached them to something, or at least had the ability to do that. So I do put cages on all of those. Some people also have asked me, how many peppers do you put in a tub like this? These are actually 17-gallon tubs. They're cheap, got them at Walmart. I have done 3 most of the time, but this year I've gone down to 2, just because I think that there'll be more nutrients available for 2, and I really just kind of want to see how that does. So these are in the next tub. This is jalapenos, and these are doing really well. These two are brown jalapenos. I have never grown those before. A friend of mine got those started for me. These are just regular jalapenos here too. Now I've got a little spare space going on about half of this bed, actually a little bit more. And then at this end I have eggplants. One of them, the one on the right, got kind of munched up by, I suspect, a rabbit. So I put these cages around. I wanted the tomato cage anyway, just to give some support, but the chicken wire is just to try and keep bunnies off of there. The one next to it looks rather better. This one right here. So I'm just going to watch and see how they do. Now these are some more eggplants. This one is looking pretty healthy too. Got some nice new leaf growth in the middle there. This one got chewed down a little bit, but is also coming back. These are both also Black Beauty eggplants. So they're doing better in this soil than they were in store-bought soil over here. We'll talk a little bit more about soil on another video, but I am sort of doing a comparison here. We'll see how they do. Over here, these are moonflowers here and here, and then in between, some of you may have heard me talk about this before. I've always wanted to try and get the red, white, and blue thing going on here with moonflowers and morning glories. So moonflowers, of course, are white. They open up in the evening time. Very pretty. I do have a video, I'll put that at the end on the end card, about the beautiful moonflower. So you can take a look at that. I have a time lapse, and I'll probably end up doing another time lapse of them opening, because they open pretty quickly when they start at night, about 8 minutes I think it was. So I'm going to put some seeds directly in for the morning glories, and again we have another bed next to it that does not have anything in it yet. So that actually to the end of this trellis will be basically moonflower with a heavenly blue in between. That's a morning glory. And then on this side we'll do another moonflower and one of the sunset morning glories, which actually is a red, so we'll get the hopefully red, white, and blue. I try this every year and so far it hasn't worked out, but I'm going to be persistent about that. Now I also built 2 half beds, so these are 4 foot by 2 foot. This one has nothing in it yet, but I'm thinking about maybe cuckoozy gourds, maybe spaghetti squash. A little bit worried about squash vine borer, but because I've had trouble with that in the past. But you know, I think I might try and grow a lauki next to it and see if that helps repel it. We'll see. These are a couple more pepper varieties I've got. These two are Thai red chili. I suspect they will be pretty hot. There are some flowers coming there. And these are Sugar Rush Peach. So we've got flowers also on these, and they're growing pretty nicely. This is something you'll definitely notice in Arkansas. As the weather gets hotter, peppers will just grow faster and faster. They love the heat, so if you've got some planted, you put them in early and they kind of were slow for a while, you just wait for that heat and they will pick right up, I promise you. Now I kind of like banana plants. These are interesting to me, how fast they grow. Also, if you look down here, this is the remnants of one of 3 that I left in the ground. So that's one there, one here, and then this one down in here. So I have kind of listened to people talk about these things, A lot of people dig them up and they will either let them go pretty much dry and store them under their house or in a shed or garage or something. Other people keep them in pots, keep them just a little bit moist with like a sackcloth around them, burlap or something like that. And I've heard of a few people tell me we don't ever do anything with ours. We just leave them and they just die back, and then they come back with a vengeance in the spring. So I tried that this year for the first time. Really purposely, just literally all these pieces of leaves and debris in here is banana leaves and stalks from last year. So my theory is they're putting a bunch of nutrients in the soil, and hopefully that's going to help feed these puppies and they will do well. So we're now getting towards the end of May. These are up to about my midsection here, so probably from their bed they're 3-4 feet tall, something like that. The leaves, there's always a leaf that's in progress. This one will open up here soon. This one will be right behind it, and they just keep producing that way. They're not actually trees, they are a plant, technically not a tree, but they do grow very fast. They offer some shade. I really just kind of like them. So this bed I'll probably just throw. I'm actually thinking about putting my leaf mold in here and letting it just finish off in here. So a little bit decomposed, but still got a ways to go on the leaf mold. But I'm thinking about putting it in here just because I don't really want to just buy a whole bunch more soil for just this. So, and I'll be putting all these cut stems in at the end of this year. So that's the plan. Now this is really kind of one of my favorite places in the garden. This is where I have my shade cloth on a canopy. Just took the blue canopy off and used shade cloth during the summer, and I found this trick sort of toward the end of the year last year. So these tomato plants look very healthy. We're still not in the upper 90s or anything. We've hit 90 a couple times, but it's not really been crazy hot yet. But upper 80s, these plants are doing really well. Not seeing any significant signs of disease or anything yet. These are flowering and starting to produce some fruit. Let me get on that to show you that. Some of you, depending on where you are, you may already have a bunch of tomatoes, I don't know. But here's some baby ones up here. These are the Black Sea Man, and there are clusters of flowers in lots of places on these plants. I planted 3 of those, and then I also planted Nebraska Weddings. There's 3 of these Nebraska Wedding plants, and again we've got clusters of flowers. These run a little bit behind the other variety in terms of size and when they produce fruit, but they do look super healthy. Now I put in, as you may have seen me, these are actually only not even a month old, and I put these in as little seedlings. You may have noticed too, your tomato plants, once the heat hits it, they really do good, and they will do up until about 92 or 3 degrees. Then this becomes a little hard on them. The humidity in Arkansas, definitely hard on them. So really this is optimal growing time right now in those 80s and very low 90-degree temperatures. There's still a few things left on my table that I haven't planted yet, and I do need to do that, so they'll be included on the next tour. However, the ginger is here. That's something I made a video on. Ginger's kind of fun to grow. You just go to the store, get you a couple of organic roots and bury them just under the soil, and they came up. 2 out of 3 came up, so that's pretty good. Now, these are Cherokee Purple. I only put 3, literally 3 heirloom varieties of plants in here just because I just struggle with keeping them going. So if I do determinate varieties, I tend to have better results, and I can always plant more of those, which is kind of my idea for this year. I had to really resist that strong temptation not to just put a plant in every spot that I could find, because the upkeep's kind of crazy. And these are already sort of getting away from me, as you tomato growers probably already see that things are getting away. I'm using a string trellis here, already running out of space to move this over to let that plant lean more. So I'm gonna have to probably just move the bucket back in order to use my string trellis the way I want to. Okay, so there is some nice tomatoes coming on there. Actually do already though see a hole. Something's already been boring into this one, but anyway, it is what it is. It'll be okay. Okay, next door to that one, and this just looks, let me move back a little bit so you maybe get a better idea. The one next to it is a Brad's Crazy Cherry. Now these form, and here they're doing it, you can see clusters, large clusters of yellow fruit, grape size. They have a very thin skin to them, quite delicious, quite mild, but those grow literally like clusters of grapes. And here's another, let's see, another bunch of flowers coming, another bunch up here. I mean, they're just doing really, really well. Okay, now this one, the third one in this row is Brad's Atomic. I don't know if any of you have ever grown Brad's Atomic, but this is something, I didn't grow it last year and I sort of regretted it, but this year I'm already seeing fruit. This is probably the most advanced of the plants yet. So here we have, up on top, let's see, there is a tomato. Just look how unusual that is, the dark coloration on this one. And we're under a shade cloth, so it's not getting as much direct sunlight as it could be, but that dark coloration is due to the anthocyanins in the fruit, and that just gives them a much darker color. These will actually, let me show you this cluster down here. Look at these just coming along. These will actually have everything from green to blue to yellow. Almost, I've always said they look sort of metallic. Really, really cool looking fruits on these. And the only thing that was tricky to me the first time I grew them was like, well, when are they ready? I mean, how do you know when they're ready? And honestly, you just kind of have to feel on them. I know these are not ready. We can't be anywhere near yet, and they're still very firm to feel. But really, you just want to let them have that little bit of give, and then you'll know that they're ready. More clusters on those. Some there, some coming down here. Where did I see them? Yeah, down here. So there's a branch that's kind of gone off a little bit there, and I see flowers on it. So, you know, tomatoes are just kind of, they're just kind of wild, and if they act crazy, I kind of like that about them though. These are the Black Sea Man again. I turn around to those, and we do have fruit here. Probably I need to look lower where they've had more of a chance. I'm also watching these very carefully for hornworms, which last year was a little bit of an issue. Caught them early, made a video about it, so hopefully we'll avoid some of that. This is a volunteer, which I assumed would be a Black Sea Man, but the Black Sea Man, as you can tell, has sort of the potato leaf. It's what they call a potato leaf variety. This is not. This is much more regular looking, so honestly, I have no idea what that is. More fruit on Black Sea Man. More flowers up here. Just tons of stuff going on. It's great. Now the other thing I did, they're getting a little strangled out. This is an opal basil, but it's in its own container, but still the the tomatoes are kind of growing all up around it. I also put another one over here. Basil is probably, certainly, arguably, one of the best deterrents for the tomato hornworm. Sometimes the best deterrents are going to be the things that have strong odors to them. There are some people on YouTube who swear by basil as being almost the holy grail of things to keep hornworms away. I don't know about that, but of all the things I've tried that supposedly repel them, marigolds, borage, and there's a couple other things, I really think that probably the best one is basil. I've said that before. If you don't have basil growing around your tomatoes, the smell is phenomenal. It's absolutely awesome, and I really do think it helps repel them. So if you don't have basil growing, I would pop a couple in if I were you. Okay, so here are my cucumbers. They are doing great. We were gone for just a couple days there, 3 days, and these have really come along since I put them in. What hasn't really bounced back very well is this Lauki down here. And Lauki tends to take over, but it really seems to keep stuff away. So if it doesn't take off, I'll go ahead and put another one in. I also put a few radishes down in here. Let's see if I can show you those. Let's see. There are a few radishes. Let's see, there's one there for sure. And that's just a few days ago, so they're just starting to come up. There's another one. Let's see. There. So, you know, this time of year, radishes are not really so good. They tend to taste rather earthy and spicy. Not their best. Not like getting them in the cold weather. But that's not the reason I'm growing them. I heard somebody say that white varieties of radishes, and these are icicles readily available in the store, that white radishes will actually repel squash bugs. I don't know about that either, but you know what? Worth a shot. And radishes are cheap. Very easy to keep the pods and seeds for next year if it does work. So the only catch to this, if you were wanting to eat the radishes, they would definitely be pretty bitter, because you have to let them, in order for this to work with the squash bugs, you actually have to let them go to seed. So again, another thing, you can try it, you can check in with me in a few months and I'll let you know how that goes. Either way, you know, it's not an expensive thing to do, but I'll keep you updated on how mine do with that. Now, in the last video we talked about deadheading during the season to promote extra growth and more flowers later. That will be another 2-3 weeks. We should get a round of these flowers are pretty faded, some of them a lot faded, so you can watch the video about that. But let me just show you this really quick. This is what I'm talking about. Wherever you trim those off, you'll get this new growth coming, and you can actually see in there where there's another flower bud developing already. And we did that just a matter of a few weeks ago, so a couple of weeks ago. Same thing here. These are also starting to grow new shoots. So you know, like I said on that video, you can, if you don't really want to keep on deadheading, which obviously I've got to do again, you can do it all at once and just wait for the second flush to come. That's perfectly fine too. Now, some of you may remember this area of the long bed at the back of our patio here. This is actually, all of this is Black-Eyed Susan, and it's definitely not as tall as it was last year. And I thought, well, you know, we're probably not going to get flowers till later, and we got them at the beginning of June last year. So I came and had a close look earlier on after we got back from our trip, and what I'm seeing actually is that flowers are starting to, let me zoom in on that one. The flowers are starting to form on a lot of these, so I think we're still on target for early June. There's one actually that's getting really close. That one looks really close. So this is a total area of about, it's a 4 foot deep and it's about 5 foot long with the Black-Eyed Susans. There's a fairly tall one standing right there. Yeah, and this still has the electric wire around it because we want to keep our little puppy dogs out of there. Then next to that is the bee balm, which in contrast, this was shorter last year and the Black-Eyed Susan was taller. They have flipped their roles this year. So the bee balm is actually, now it's in a bed, so it's up off the ground, but this is actually at my chest height. And a lot of these are starting to show signs of flower formation. These have a very delicate flower. I'll show you when they come out. This is going to put on a pretty good show, and they attract pollinators really well. So I'm looking forward to that. Between these two plants, this accounts for probably somewhere close to 12 feet or so. There's Ruby digging in the grass. Ow, and the grass needs to be mowed too, but I'm just not going to hold back. I'm just going to let you see it all today. So this is kind of interesting too. The gladiolus are very behind, but some of those are throwing up some stalks on which I'm assuming they'll have some flowers. This is the miniature knockout, and it bounced back well from its little pruning with lots of new stuff, so that's good. The clematis just continues to just be a joy to have in the garden. It is so pretty. My neighbor has it, hers is beautiful too, but this just it's just a bright, it's in a shady area of the garden, but it's just a really bright splash of color, and it lasts, you know, quite a long time, and then often will come back again later in the year. And here's this poor little hosta trying to make it. There's a lot of ivy back in here, so we're probably gonna have to trim all that back. There's where the bunnies are getting in and out, one of the many places. And if you own a beagle, they know that that's where they come in and out. Here's the crossvine. It looks very pretty. This is the time of year that it really starts to look good. The flowers, unfortunately, have had their turn this year. They're one of the openers of the garden. They are very pretty, but they only last 7 days to 10 days or so. But now we have all these beautiful new shoots coming, and one of the things I really want to do is learn how to propagate this so that I can plant it in some other places, and also be able to give some of that away too. Here's the lettuce. Most of this is about seen its best. This red Merlot is so dark and pretty. Oh my goodness, it's not the greatest tasting lettuce, to be honest with you, but it's a very decorative, super pretty lettuce. It looks just lovely out here. So not much going on in these two tubs, but I think I may bring those remaining pepper plants and put those in one, and then we'll see what else we can find to put in the other. This down here is remnants of a blueberry bush. I just think they need to be in a sunnier place, and probably the soil needs to be a little more acidic. So my wife has really enjoyed these raised metal beds. She got those last year, and she'll just go to the nursery and find a few things. Sometimes I have a few things that I've planted, but right now it's still pretty new, but already got some nice color in it. This creeping Jenny actually came back from last year. The honeysuckle, this is actually, we might get lucky and see a hummingbird, I don't know, but that we do see hummingbirds in the evening time. They like to get an extra meal of nectar to get them through the night, but this is very pretty, and the only thing, I really thought it didn't have too much scent, but I came out this morning and it was really pretty strong. Not like wild honeysuckle strong, but very very nice, very noticeable in the air, and it was kind of nice to experience that, because I don't know that I smelled any honeysuckle smell last year from it, but this year of course it's producing more flowers, and it's slowly ambling its way over the top of the archway. This other bed, same thing, my wife just likes to put plants in, and a couple of these I grew. There's some calendulas there, and then this is a hollyhock that actually had that fungus that's like I think they call it dog vomit fungus. It looks pretty yucky when it first comes out. So actually she took the plant out thinking it was going to be done, and I said, oh no, it should just go away. So it didn't go away, it's kind of just dried up in there, but this plant has put on at least two new leaves since that, so we're just going to let it do its thing. This is a black-eyed Susan vine, and we get new flowers every couple days. It is slowly making its way up the trellis here. I suspect that if you started it from a small plant, it would probably go pretty wild, but we'll see. It looks good. There's just a couple of marigolds in here right now. We may add some more to that. This back one almost looks like it's leggy, but then I found out it's actually a variety that is pretty tall. Forget what it's called, but my wife got that too. Now, if any of you have a green stalk, this is really a fun way to grow things. You can water from the top, you can use liquid feeds and feed from the top, and the water distributes very evenly throughout the system. And on each tier, which this one has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tiers on it. As you can see, I've got a lot of empty slots right now, but I really wanted to try growing the microtoms outside, and just like in the vegetable garden under the shade cloth, I have incorporated basil into this tower because I want to keep hornworms away from the microtoms. Clearly, the small as these are, one hornworm probably have that gone overnight. The strawberries just kind of came back from last year, and I really kind of was hoping that runners would come out and we could get more plants. I don't think we're going to get a whole lot of strawberries, but we may get some more plants. You can see there's one that's coming back, so we'll see what happens, and I'll probably go ahead and put some other herbs in these open slots down here. We got several places. Last year we didn't do as well over here, and part of it was Ruby is our Cavapoo. This dog here, she's just over a year old, and she's finally sort of leaving plants alone. She doesn't leave much else alone, but she leaves the plants alone. And so I'm hoping we can put some stuff in. I mean, she could have yanked these strawberries out already, and she hasn't, so hopefully she's kind of getting over it. Or maybe she's just eating weeds instead. Ruby, what are you eating? So the garden is just a sometimes a real messy and wild looking place. But I have plans for more things. That's one thing I really don't want to just get overly into talking about worm farms, but vermiculture is something that has interested me for a while, and I did just acquire a worm farm, which I still have to put up, and I do have an area behind my shed that I think will be a good spot for it. So I hopefully will be able to show you that. I did order some worms, so they should be in, I believe, next week. So I've got to get the worm farm ready this weekend for them. But anyway, something to look forward to for the next one maybe. But thanks for joining me today, guys. I really like it when you come along and visit the garden. I promise you it's going to look less messy in the future, but you know, I either just have to not show you the garden or just let you see it the way it is, and so that's what I chose to do today. I hope that your gardens are going well. I hope that you're enjoying them, that you have found a lot of enjoyment just from watching things grow, and don't forget to really look at the details. Look at the small things in your garden, the insects, the leaves, the flowers. Just take it all in, because it's so beautiful. And you know, we walk past those things every day and don't always pay them much attention, but there's so much beauty in nature, and I just encourage you to grow a garden and learn more about it. So thanks again for joining me. I look forward to seeing you in the garden next time. But until then, bye now.